Hello everyone, this is Max. YouTube or StreamYard or whatever has been messing with me to where it's not placing my videos in a place where people can actually see them as a new video or new upload from me. They're hidden behind the scenes in the live stream area of my channel, and they also removed the chat and what was going on in this particular video, where it's called the Masking of America Phase 2. So this is a recording of where I can play the video, and this is a screen capture recording, so I have a local copy of the video that I can post around and try to get up to where, people can find it. All right, with that, we're going to start. Green Solids Max, we are back. We're talking about Phase 2, the Masking of America. Seeing if this thing is actually going to kick over and work here. My stream is actually going. There it is. Perfect. Do we have any here? Well, we got a couple of people here. Well, we're going to start. Obviously, I had said this before, probably even just in my last video, that, yeah, Phase 2 is coming. Well, Phase 2 is here, or at least ramping up. And what does this mean for everybody out there? Well, the old masks, they're coming back. I'm doing this live because I got a lot of ideas and I don't feel like editing a video. So there's that. In Minnesota, and there's probably a lot of severely left-leaning states, draconian states out there that are going to be doing the same thing. And what I said about it the first time is mandates are not laws. If you asked me, and what actually the title of this stream was going to be, is mandates requiring masks sounds gay, because doesn't it? You need a mask to go on your man date, right? You need one of them masks to go with your mandate. So anyways, they are not laws. Those apply to people that work for the governor, work for the government, that sort of thing, not to the population at large. So let's take a look at these, and now just to give people some ammunition out there. If you don't want to really, I'm saying, if you're required to wear a mask at work or whatever, you do what you want to do there, right? You need to make a living. You need to do your thing. Businesses are more or less required to, because they're under the thumb of the government, and they can threaten to take people's licenses away. And of course, then, the business has to sue and say that it's unfair and unjust. And that takes months and months. And yeah, we'll get to some solutions with that. But as far as like out in public and going into businesses and things like this, if you don't want to wear a mask, how are we going to deal with it? Well, first, we're going to take a look here at just the general where face masks are required. Now, see, this automatically tells you it's not a law, because different cities are allowed to do whatever they want to do. And if they even choose to partake in any sort of a masking policy, everyone can kind of do what they want. Therefore, it's not a law. Okay. Not a law. They can suggest the general public, and if you want to volunteer to do that, fine. They are requiring businesses and people who work in businesses, employees and such, to be masked, depending on the type of business. They can't even really figure that out. But the public at large, there is no control over. That's self-control. People controlling themselves. So every single city here has a little bit different policies on everything. They're all very similar, and they're also all very ridiculous. Now, this is not saying that at some point these things won't become a law, okay? But think about this. You need to gag yourself before you can buy and sell. Does that not concern you? Now, there are a lot of people out there that think, well, if we just wear the mask, this will all go away, and next year everything's going to be fine. No, if you give an inch, you're given a mile when it comes to this. This is all the NWO stuff. This is all the Book of Revelation stuff. Okay, we're ramping up to the beast system. The Pope gave up his title. He's no longer Vicar of Christ. Well, who's the vicar now? The Pope knows. We don't know yet, but the Pope knows. And we're rolling the system out. So what can we do going forward? you should resist it as much as you can. Okay. All right. Resist it as much as you can. And practice makes perfect. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. And I suggest going to places that you do not need to shop at without a mask and seeing and getting into a confrontation, friendly confrontation. Okay. Friendly with the people who work there or the manager or whatever, just so you get used to it. Because everybody's scared of having any sort of confrontation in their life. I know it's difficult. No, it's a little difficult, but they can't do anything to you. All right. They can say, well, you can't shop here. That's where it comes down to. And, if there's any other way you can avoid shopping in those places that you have to go to, granted, go to Amazon, which I hate saying, but these guys don't understand that these towns that are doing these things are basically saying they don't want any tax money anymore because all their businesses are going to close up. And I don't understand why they're so short-sighted like that, but they are. So you have all these lists of cities, and the one that's the easiest to go through is the one from Winona. So we'll take a look at this, and this is going to be very similar in everybody's states all across the country. Greetings, everyone who's joining. Today is not a theological thing. This is a follow-up to the last video where I said round 2 will be coming, and, of course, here it is. In my neck of the woods, which is a fairly left-leaning liberal state, I'm not very far from Minneapolis. They want to do a masking thing for businesses, certain types of businesses. And this is going on in other places. I think Arkansas or one of the states said all the 501c3 churches had to close, right? Because they are under the thumb of the government. They didn't listen when everyone said, if you're a 501c3, we can't support you. And there's YouTube videos of all these pastors up there saying, oh, it's ridiculous. We get to do whatever we want. We're 501c. All it means is we get tax credit and blah, 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 blah. Well, they ain't laughing now. They're not making anything. They're not preaching anything. They're not doing anything because their building is closed because they are a business, whether they want to admit it or not. So we'll take a brief look here at the little pamphlets in the city of Winona, which is a pretty small city, but they all look kind of the same. What I would assume is the governor's office put out the general outline of what the flyer should be for their town, because it seems a little bit too professional for a little town like Winona to come put together. But in my opinion, it doesn't really matter that much. So they have their nice little sign for what they want everyone to put on with their nice little slave mask. Mark Peterson has proclaimed a citywide mask order. It took effect July 10th, so this is already in effect. Orders requires all Winona residents and visitors to wear face mask coverings in indoor areas broadly accessible to the public, including customers and employees at businesses open to the general public. Really what that applies to is public-owned works that the government controls. So if they want you to put a mask on at a park, well, they own the property, so they can kind of do that. If they want to have it at the courthouse, they can kind of do that. Oddly enough, it's because they're a corporation, but that's a totally different ball of wax, right? They got different rules for private businesses. And we'll get into that too, as to people who are business owners out there, how you can bypass this stuff. We're going to get into solutions after we cover the gist of the new masking mandates that are going to be basically the same in just about every state. Some a little bit more draconian than others, but make no mistake, masks aren't going anywhere. They're not. They're not going to go anywhere until vaccines come out. Okay. And then you're going to need a vaccine to buy and sell. Okay. Then it's going to be, you can't use paper money. Paper money is probably already on the table. There's a lot of places you have to use exact change, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So why is the city doing this? Most importantly, a mask order protects the health and safety of all Winonians. It's for grandma. It's for grandma. And, that's like saying, we need to protect women from rape, so we should castrate all the men. That's perfect. That makes perfect sense. It will help keep all of our businesses open. Well, why would they close, right? Allow our schools and universities to open this fall and much more. Funny thing about these mandates is schools and universities are not requiring masks. So wouldn't that be the number one place where you've got thousands of people together? I don't know. It's just, like I said, this whole thing is nonsensical when you go through it. It's just about slave practice. It's all about this. There is no substance to anything of what they're saying. We realize it's nonsense. Don't comply with nonsense. Push it off as long as possible. Obviously, we're not going to be do that forever, but the more we can slow them down, then they have to alter plans. Just don't let everything go all smoothly. The single most important action any Winonian can take to keep their family and neighbors safe and prevent the spread of COVID is to wear a mask. How? Because this continues on. The masks don't really do anything. It says any homemade anything that covers your face, including a t-shirt. How is that keeping anybody safe? And you can direct all your questions to them people. I'm glad it didn't say experts, by the way. Questions and answers. Now, this is where we're getting into the mommy daddy thing where these Winonians are treated like children, where the children ask the government, you know, Mama, is it okay if I do this? Is it okay if I do this? What about this? This is another way you'd know that it's not a law, because laws don't do this, where they have all of these weird sort of, well, if you're under 2, you don't have to wear one. If you're under 13, you don't have to wear one. If you're in the back of the store, you don't have to. That's not the way that laws are written. Okay, when it take effect, what counts as a mask or face covering? A mask or face covering is a manufactured or homemade cloth covering that fully covers an individual's nose and mouth. Doesn't even say what kind of cloth. If this was for health reasons, wouldn't it matter what kind of a mask you wear? It also says in here that they're recommending non-medical masks for non-medical personnel because they don't have enough masks. Well, if it's not a medical mask, then what good's it going to do you? I mean, construction masks are meant to keep sawdust out. Where do I have to wear a mask? The order has several requirements for wearing masks, including employees and customers of retail businesses, public transportation users, patrons of bars and restaurants when not seated at tables. So you can go into a bar as long as you're wearing the mask on the street. You go into the bar and order your drink and go sit down, you can take the mask off. Are we catching the nonsense? Are we catching the nonsense? Gym users and entertainment venue attendees when individuals are closer than 6 feet to each other and no more. Remember, now this is a deadly, 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 deadly virus. But if you're eating food in public, then you're fine. You don't need to wear the mask. What if I don't have a mask or face covering? Oh, well, the city is committed to giving you a mask. They're gonna show up and give you one of them. Do we have to wear masks when we are worshiping? No, the decision is up to individual churches and faith organizations. So in Minnesota, at least, they're saying you can do what you want as a church. Do outdoor businesses have to require employees and customers to wear masks? No, if the business primarily operates outdoors, you don't have to wear a mask. The business I work at isn't open to the public, but isn't following good practices on letting employees wear masks. This is the Karen policy right here. This is Karen. I work in an office and Bobby doesn't want to wear a mask and he's a misogynist and a racist. I mean, he won't wear a mask. And she's going to dial 311 and turn in Bobby and turn in the store and try and make him bankrupt because the guy wasn't wearing a mask in his cubicle. This is the Karen policy. Okay. On letting employees wear masks or stay 6 feet away from each other. This order addressed that. No, if the business isn't open to the general public, it's up to the business whether to require masks for employees. And then we'll go into the mask order guide for businesses. Okay. But you understand, here is the loophole for all you business people out there who own little tiny businesses and maybe have a couple of employees. All right. You can't make your people wear masks if they have any sort of medical condition, and you can't ask them what it is. So you tell your employees, if you would like to wear a mask, go ahead. And if for whatever medical condition you might have that prevents you from wearing a mask, I am not allowed to ask you, and you can just tell me medical reasons. There, everything is covered. And then if Karen wants to be mad, you can say that Jimmy's got a medical condition and it's none of your business. And you can tell the same thing to the police, which will never show up because all the police in America are on very thin ice. Okay. They're not going to come in hassling people about masks, but you're perfectly lawful to say my employees have medical condition. Okay. And that you think of like, oh, wow, what an outlandish excuse that someone can't wear a mask. It's like, no, there's like 20% of the population has asthma or something, or has been at some point in their life diagnosed with asthma. I mean, it's pretty common. And if you're going into a place and you're doing this testing practice thing that I've been talking about, go to some place you have no intention of shopping at, go in there without a mask and talk to the people. And they say, well, I have a medical condition, I can't wear a mask. And if they ask what is it, they go, well, I take medication. And then just leave it at that. Just say I take medication. You don't have to be specific about anything. You don't have to lie and say asthma. So everybody takes a medication of some sort, right? You eat vitamins. You eat vitamins and minerals. Anything you can count as medication. And you don't need to be truthful. In my opinion, you don't need to be truthful to nonsense. Stupid questions get stupid responses, right? You want me to wear a mask for no reason. Huh? Make me. That's the initial response in my head. And then I go, oh, well, I can't. Well, why not? Because I'll die. Huh. Right? That's just me. Like I said, practice this stuff. Just slow it down a little bit. Slow it down. Because eventually it's going to be the vaccines and everything else. I love the Karen policy, though. I saw someone not wearing a mask at a store. Can I report them? Here's Karen policy number 2. Mama, Billy's messing with me. Mama. This is the public today. I can't have conflict with anybody. I can't just ask them to put a mask. I can't do it. I'm going to call the police, or I'm going to talk to the store manager. The mama policy. You can mention something to a business employee if you feel comfortable doing so, but that's it. Hey, look, Karens are shut down. You're not allowed to mess with employees because you don't know their medical condition. It says, please do not confront other people. You can't know their situation or their reason for not wearing a mask. It tells you guys right there. Medical exemption. And honestly, if you're running a small business with a couple of employees, it's a huge liability to have people working several hours a day on their feet or doing active work with wearing a mask. Even sitting in a cubicle or something wearing a mask. Just letting you know. Because you know what? Something happens to one of them people. What are you going to do? Sue the government? And say, well, it was the mandate. No. The government's going to say they have a medical exemption. Why didn't you let them not wear a mask? That's what they're going to say. I went to a business and nobody was wearing masks. What should I do? The best solution in most cases is simply to leave if you don't feel comfortable. That's right. Go home, Karen. If you feel comfortable speaking to an employee or owner, okay, as long as you're respectful and non-confrontational. In any case, let us know. Oh, the Karens. The police and fire department will visit businesses that are reportedly not complying. No, they're not. Remind them of the order and work with them in their COVID safety plan. They are not visiting anybody. You think they have the money to run around and be mask police? Do you think that, in these smaller towns and areas, the chief of police who was elected by their neighbors, literally their neighbors, is going to run around and hassle people about masks? Do you think so? Do you think the guy wants to get reelected? Do you think the guy wants to get his house egged by the local teens? No. This is all self policy. Business owner puts it in place, and then you've got teeny boppers who get to have control over older people trying to enforce it. That's what you get. And then when you man up to them and actually say, I have a medical condition. And then what are they going to do? They're going to point to the sign. That's what they all do. They point to the sign like the sign gives them power. Oh, the sign says. If the sign said to kill the Jews, would you kill the Jews? If the Governor Walz can mandate masks Why can he not mandate assless chaps? All employees need to wear assless chaps because obviously we got some kind of banging going on somewhere. We got something. Masks is a submission device. Okay? I don't want to be all graphic, but that's what it is. And we all know this has nothing to do with your health. Submit. And the mandate is exactly as silly as having pants with the backside cut out. Okay? Let's mandate that. And while you're at it, shave your heads and then put on your bondage mask, your gag. It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous. Does the order apply in daycares? No, not really. What can I do about my kids? There is an exemption for kids younger than 2 because, hey, who cares if they get COVID, right? If it's a health pandemic, who cares if kids under 2? What you need to do is you just put a sock on their head or tie a plastic bag around it. That'll protect them. Isn't it supposed to be for the children? Think of the children and the old people, right? Nope. If you're a kid, you don't need to wear them. A broad exemption for kids or adults of any age, a development stage where wearing a mask is really difficult, could cause distress or disruption or be outright dangerous. Do what you can, but don't worry about it. See, this clause right here says that nobody really ever needs to wear a mask ever at any time in a store, in an anything at all. There is an exemption for kids younger than 2. And a broad exemption for kids or adults of any age at a developmental stage where wearing a mask is really difficult. Hey, I am at a developmental stage where I actually have a brain cell, and it's really difficult for me to submit to nonsense. Here is your out right here. Look for clauses like this in your city policies or state policies or whatever they do. Could cause distress, disruption, or be outright dangerous. Every mask on every man, woman, and child out there does this, unless you're in a burning building. What if I work with people with, and here's the mama, what about this? Papa, what about this? And they have all these little exceptions. There's enough exceptions in here where everybody's covered. All right. And the ones who aren't going to want to do it are the business owners because they think that going along with the flow, then they don't have to get hassled by the government because I don't know. They think they're going to get their $100 or $1,000 fine, which is never coming, but you're going to get sued. Someone falls off a ladder because they get lightheaded. Guarantee it. Because people are kind of dirt bags, especially in the big cities. Okay. I have a legitimate health concern where I can't wear a mask and I do need to be in public. How do I deal with this? Do I have to wear a sign on my shirt or something? Can I get an exemption? You can't get an exemption from something that's not a law. It's a really good question. There is no definitive answer. How do you like that? How would you like to be charged with a crime and given a ticket for not wearing a mask and there's no definitive answer whether or not you're supposed to be wearing one or not? You like that? I thought it was kind of funny. There's no formal exemption application, right? Because it's not a law. There's nothing to be exempt from. And we're certainly not asking people to carry papers or wear signs. We're really relying on folks, customers, employees, and everyone in the public to use common sense, good judgment, and lots of compassion. So it's self-enforcement, Karen enforcement, rat on your neighbor enforcement. And we're as we go through this, we're going to find out that it's really not anything at all to do with health, obviously, but being the fact that there's a lot of businesses where when you're outside of the business and you go into the business and you're there at like the hostess station in a restaurant, you know, where there's like a waiting area. There's like 3 or 4 people waiting for tables. And you have to wear a mask right there. But as soon as you get up and walk 5 feet and are seated at the table, now you can take your mask off. What sense does that make? Well, it's so when you're coming into the store and everyone's milling around outside and close to these businesses, everybody is wearing a mask. And all of those little cameras they've been putting up everywhere in public for the last 10, 15 years can be broadcast all around the planet about what good little boys the Americans are, that they're even the rowdy Americans and the gun-toting Americans are conforming to these draconian mask laws, and therefore you should too. We're going to be an example for the world, because it doesn't make any sense why you'd have to wear a mask outside and then in the entry area, and then as soon as you're in, you can take it off. Doesn't make any sense. Back to the health issues. If you have a legitimate issue that prevents you from wearing a mask, now consider this: legitimate is anything that causes you harm by the mask. If you're not getting enough oxygen, that's harm. So everybody qualifies as a legitimate issue. Now, if you say that, they're going to throw you out. Well, you can just say, I have a medical issue. You can just tell them asthma if you want. You can just say medication. Why can't you wear a mask? I take medication. What are they going to do? And remember, do this at stores you don't have no intention of shopping at. So if they throw you out, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. But that gets you warmed up for when you actually have to go somewhere. You can talk to the people and be like, look, I need to buy steaks. Are you going to go in there? Are you going to do my shopping for me? And let them do your shopping for you. They have to have an alternative. I mean, a lot of places have pickup, order online and pickup and stuff like that. They don't have to let you in because they have a method around not having to go in the store. But there are quite a few organizations out there that don't have anything. All they have is a storefront. Well, they have to let you in. No, I got asthma. I got problems. If you have a legitimate issue that prevents you from wearing a mask, you're called to make. This may result in you needing to have a conversation at some point when you're at the store. Well, of course it will. You'll have Timmy, the 16-year-old, who's got a real job. In his job, he wants to do a good job, and his job is to tell people to wear masks. And Timmy looks real young, and no one wants to hassle a kid. Right? That's what they're going to do. Or somebody at Walmart who's in a wheelchair, the store greeters are 95 years old. They figure no one's going to put up a fight. But they're also not going to be as with it. So you say, I can't. I'll die. I'm taking medication. They'll probably leave you alone. Stores will have different approaches, and we can't guarantee you won't be asked to leave. We apologize for causing this hardship. This order is not a perfect solution, the best step we're able to take. So they're telling you that there's absolutely nothing anybody can do except ask you to leave. Okay, there's no cops running around going to ticket you because that would make it some sort of a law. And it's up to the employers how they're going to deal with things. Now, if all of your employees happen to have asthma, for instance, or some unnamed medical ailment that prevents them from wearing a mask, it's nobody's business. It's nobody's business. Now, the exception to that is going to be like a healthcare facility or some place that people would regularly be required to wear masks for other reasons, because obviously when you got the job, you knew that would be part of the job. But if you're a guy who works at Home Depot, obviously wearing a mask is not something that you're going to think of when you think a guy who's moving 2x4s at Home Depot. Okay. And here we go. And please don't fall for the bogus exemption cards floating around claiming that mask orders violate ADA, HIPAA laws. Don't use them. They aren't true, and using them will create more problems for everyone. So now you know that absolutely they work. Otherwise, they wouldn't bring them up. But the point is you don't need the card. You don't need any cards out there. There's no exemption. There's no cards. You don't need anything. You just tell them, I can't wear a mask. Well, why not? I got medical issues. I take medication. That's it. You don't need cards. Show me your papers before you can go in and go buy a watermelon or something. No. Here's another good one. By the way, they got these from Owen Benjamin. He's a comedian who is a pretty bright guy. He calls himself a Christian. Not sure about that, but he's a pretty bright guy. And he's the one who brought up that you cannot cover your face if you have a concealed carry. And that's pretty standard amongst the states. Even in Minnesota, where you potentially could wear a face mask because it gets so blusteringly cold, you cannot wear a face mask. I think it's a felony. The law says I'm legally carrying a gun. I can't wear a mask. Is that true? No, you can wear a mask and carry as long as you have a permit to carry and follow all of their laws. Not true what they're saying here, because then they say in Minnesota law, unrelated to permit to carry law does restrict the use of face coverings, but it doesn't prohibit them all. After all, we live in Minnesota to wear face coverings, blah, 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 blah. So the Minnesota law does. You can't wear a ski mask and walk around any old time you want carrying a pistol. I mean, this is standard stuff. It's like, oh, no, the sodomy mask doesn't count. That you can wear the sodomy mask. Well, what if the mask you want to wear is ski masks, right? There's people that do that and they wear regular gas masks and things like that to be funny. And it's like, well, why wear anything? The statute provides broad exemptions that are easily interpreted to address this. Well, right, but who's interpreting them? I guarantee you, you're walking around with a gun and a ski mask before the whole pandemic thing, you're getting arrested and you're getting charged with a felony. Just, I mean, really? Do you think that's going to be cool? This includes an exemption from medical treatment. Wearing a mask during the pandemic falls into that category. Sure, it does. Okay. Genuine question as a bartender. Well, I don't really care, but does this mean no one can stand around the bar without a mask on or drink? See, they get very specific. Mama, I gave someone a beer. Should they be wearing a mask? Can you remove your mask to drink? Can you remove your mask to drink? Can you imagine the IQ level of these people? They just pick the dumbest questions, I guess. They want to catch all the denominators. Can you remove your mask to drink? Generally, people ordering drinks at the bar should be wearing a mask. Should. Another notification here. The little siren should go off. When anytime they say should, means it's not required. So from what I'm gathering, bars are completely exempt. All right? Unless you're waiting for a table, you're going to at a bar and grill. If you're waiting for a table in the little area right next to where they seat everybody, then you got to wear a mask. But as soon as you cross that gate past the hostess station, and all bets are off. Well, those seated on bar stools may not be. That said, 6 feet physical, whatever. They say you don't have to wear a mask. What about being outside parks and public places? Well, don't be dumb. I live in an apartment building. My neighbors are talking to each other without wearing masks. Oh, Karen. The order only applies to indoor public spaces. Now, I'm going to cut back to this. Now, if you got a small business, you can get around temporarily before they get mad about it and give you a ticket. You can get around it temporarily that just make your business a private club. And Minnesota did this when they had the smoking ban many years ago. They banned it in all indoor restaurants and everything indoors, I think. And there was an exemption for theater plays, because theater plays would use smoke as part of the act of what they're doing. If they're doing in 1800s, everyone's got pipes and cigars and whatever. So there was an exemption because their theater that we have in Minnesota is like a historical landmark, and it's supposedly a big deal. And what this one bar did was a very large place, is if you were in there and you were there to smoke, they would hand you a card. And at the point they handed you the card and gave you the table, you were then an actor. So you were taking part in part of the theater. You could smoke and drink and be merry all night long. And then when it was your turn, you would go up to the stage and say whatever was written on the card into the microphone. And that was part of the play. You are now a theater actor, and you could smoke inside. This is the same thing here when you're talking about public spaces. If you're a public business open to general public, well, you say that your business is members only, and then you have a big sign that says become a member today. And everybody who walks through the door, you ask them, would you like to become a member? Yes. Congratulations, you're a member. Now it's a private club. Okay. One of the many ways to get around that. And it's tough for business owners, because honestly, you're all going bankrupt. If you run a small business, you really got to find your niche and find a way to be open and get around this mask thing, because everyone's going to shop with Jeff Bezos on Amazon. Okay. Everybody is, because nobody wants to wear a mask. And nobody wants to go through the hassle every time they go to the store where they have to have this, I have a medical condition excuse. because the response is going to be different everywhere you go. You never know what you're going to get, which is why I say practice. Practice. Summer sporting events. Who's doing the order? Why now? The city has been, well, because it's phase 2, guys. Why now? The city has been proactive in our COVID response from the first day. A citywide mask order was the next step in making a difference before experiencing a significant increase in cases. How do they know there's going to be a significant increase in cases? How does anybody know this? They know it because it's part of their plan. That's how they know it. Obvious. The rising number in all these places, because they have the National Guard out testing everybody. Obviously, you're going to have more cases, but the cases doesn't matter. It's how many people died. Zero. They say it's 99.8% recoverable rate from COVID. They say it's 99.8%. I'm gonna contest and say that they're lying about that 0.8% or the 0.2%. I'm gonna say they're lying about it because they're saying everybody's got COVID, which they probably do. It's a common cold type of virus associated with that. What happens if I don't comply? We really hope you do. We really hope you comply, guys. Come on. Wear the mask. The pants are in the mail, guys. The pants. $11.99. Get yours today. This is about having compassion for grandma and care for your neighbors. But in the case where anyone chooses not to comply and does not meet a reason for exemption, which is you tell them you can't wear a mask, that's your exemption. I can't wear one. That's it. They will be asked to leave the business area. Oh no. I'll just have to get my stuff in a day later from Jeff Bezos. If they refuse, this is again, if you make a stink, I mean, why would you want to shop there anyway? Make a stink about not being able to go in the store, then they'll call the cops for trespassing. Not because you're not wearing a mask, just for trespassing. Okay. And the cops aren't going to show up because they're on thin ice. They're about getting disbanded in Minnesota. So they're not going to show up. They want to be as far away from catching crimes and writing tickets and aggravating people as possible. Here's a good one. Why not just ask people to voluntarily wear masks? The city launched Wear One for Winona, did exactly that. We launched a propaganda campaign to get people to voluntarily wear masks. It's been incredibly successful. Hundreds of individuals and more than 60 businesses have taken to mask-wearing selfies and shared them across social media. Can you imagine that? I'm a slave and proud. Look at my Facebook. I get social credit. I for wearing a mask because I was a good girl. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. Got my teacher an apple. And then this is how to participate in that. And that's in Winona, a fairly small town. As you can see, there is absolutely no teeth to any of this stuff. But if you watch it on the news, they wanted to make it seem like the National Guard's coming in and there's gonna be serious consequences and fines and suspensions, and we're just not gonna take it. All these people that think they're above the law without wearing their mask. And it's a suggestion. They make it uncomfortable for you not to wear a mask with all of the social pressures and all of that stuff, but nobody is forcing you to do it. And I'm not saying that they won't at some point in time. I am saying right now, there is none of that going on. Not even for businesses. If you choose to have a little bit of cojones there, business owners, and stand up for the rights of your employees and your own rights as a business owner and find out how to get around it. It's terrible that everyone has asthma. Really, they should be giving you grant money because you hired so many disabled people. That would be the angle that I would go for. Again, I am not a financial advisor. So just letting you know. So this is the guide for businesses. We'll take a look at quick. I can't run on here too long. I'm sorry I haven't been looking at chat. Maybe I'll do that now before I get into the second part. I did a 2-hour, 40-minute live stream on my other channel, and all of the meat and potatoes was in the first half hour. And for some reason, they decided to cut off the first 40 minutes of my other live stream. So now I'm kind of wary. The longer I go, that they might just cut my stuff up, and then yeah, that would be unhappy. So we're trying to get this done here inside an hour and a half ish. Let's see. Jeremy's in here. Cool. Anything for me? Hey, Jason. Hey, Phil. Hey, Steven. 501c3 is why you don't go to a church building. Well, being 501c3 is not, doesn't mean they're of Satan. It just means you're not going to get, 501c3 pastors cannot talk about politics. They can't talk about stuff like that, policy, or they probably can't even talk about morality much, because some of those things the church preaches against, like LGBTQ, sodomite stuff, and all that, would be hate speech under 501c3. So that's a bad deal. Phil, yeah, the coin shortage. The coin shortage is to get people to stop using money. And there's a lot of businesses and places that are like exact change only. I haven't seen it personally, but I don't get out very much. Heard about it a lot though. And it's like, well, big deal. So who cares? You lose a few cents here and there, but use cash. Oh, and go out and buy bullets and all of that stuff, because pretty soon all that's going to be have to be tracked on a credit card or something. And meat. Go out and get meat. And, wave 3 is coming. See, miraculously, they know that there's going to be all these more cases, and it hasn't even started yet. Okay. Wave 2 hasn't even started yet. They just know what's going to happen, so they're getting ahead of it. And it's like, how do you know what's going to happen? Oh, it's written in the playbook. Yeah. Yeah, and Steve's, yeah, they're encouraging no cash in a lot of places. I mean, most people don't use cash, so they don't care. I only use cash, with the exception of, what do we got? I mean, we use credit cards just out of ease of use, but generally it's going to be cash. I mean, like, you have the money for it when you use the credit card, because then you get free gas points or whatever, I mean, it's the B system. I know what it is, but yeah, cash. Cash. Forcing a child to wear a mask is child abuse. Absolutely correct. And I think that the state knows this. Absolutely knows this, which is why the mandate is you can't put masks on people under 2. And in some states, it's actually in Minneapolis, it's 13. Okay. I think they're very cognizant of this, because if you have a hypochondriac mom who makes the babies run around with face masks, they would take the kid away for child abuse, because you're impeding oxygen to the kid and then you're stopping their healthy development. But if you're an adult, it's okay. You get the gag mask. DLC for Grace. How am I doing? I am doing wonderful. So I've got plenty of meat in the deep freeze. Yeah, Phil. We had a freezer in the garage for a couple of years and never really needed to use it. And I'd fire it up every now and again to make sure the compressor stayed pumping. And, that's how you're supposed to take care of it. You can't keep them unplugged forever. And even doing that, it worked. Threw a bunch of stuff in it during the first COVID thing. And then it crapped out like 2 weeks later. So I don't know if that's God telling me that I should put faith in him and I don't need a freezer, or if it's him telling me I need to get a new good freezer now before the stuff goes down. I don't know. Let me know what you think. A freezer would be good, but then I think, well, gee, what if the power goes out for a week? That's not going to do me much good either. So, Pancake Cow, it's a different account. Yeah, how you doing, man? All right, so that's everything that's going on with that. So we'll look at the business thing here briefly. Mark Peterson has proclaimed a citywide thing same thing for businesses. The large reason for this order is to support the local economy. Is like, are these guys? I have to think these guys are delusional, because this is not New World Order people. These are small town people in the city council and a small town mayor. Winona, maybe 5 to 10,000 people, maybe. I don't think Winona is really that big. The order intends to keep business open and allow schools and universities. So I'm guessing what the rhetoric is from the top, and like Governor Walz, is that, well, if you put in these mask orders, we'll allow you to keep the businesses open. So these are the cities capitulating and saying, okay, well, we have to have our businesses running a little bit, otherwise we're going to go bankrupt. So we'll have to have this mask order. This is what it is. And anytime that you make a concession to the beast, you're just going to get more beast. That's it. You got to put your foot in the door, because there's a lot of cities. There's like 15 in that list where are face masks required, right? Excelsior, Duluth, Mankato, Minnetonka, Winona, not even Blaine, not even. There's not even 15 in the list. And there's not even 15 in the list, which means there's a lot of cities out there that are saying, no, we're not going to do that. That's dumb, right? Which is good for them. Good for them. But I think they're getting the pressure down on them. The guidelines below apply only to the local order, effective only within the city of Winona. Businesses that are licensed and regulated at the state and federal levels may already be operating under different or more stringent orders, all of which would supersede this order. So these, I don't know if that means that if the state says you don't have to do nothing, I guess that they can't even enforce this, which, according to what they write, there is no enforcement for it anyway. It's Karen. Karen's going to call. Do businesses have to require customers, employees to wear masks if the business is open to the general public? Yes. Otherwise, masks are only required in the areas of the open to the general public. Entrances, exits, lobbies, waiting rooms, etc. What? I don't understand. You have to wear the mask in the parking lot up to the door, and then once you're inside, you can take the mask off? It's just to be seen wearing the mask. It's just mind control and manipulation. What counts as a mask or face covering? A mask or face covering. See, they're not even pretending here that it is anything healthy. Mask or face covering is manufactured a homemade cloth that fully covers an individual's nose and mouth. It doesn't say anything about must meet the requirements, health and safety requirements of something that, if it was designed to be a personal protection PPE type gear, would have a requirement. You know, medical grade mask, if the idea is to keep out COVID. Items like bandanas or masks improvised in a pinch, like a t-shirt, count. Imagine that. My t-shirt's gonna protect me from COVID. What if an employee, here's very important for business people out here. What if an employee or customer presents a legitimate health concern that prevents them from wearing a mask? Now, see what the business owners are babies now. They're asking the government, I don't know what to do. How do I deal with this? There is no definitive answer. Well, there you go. If you have an employee or a customer who doesn't want to wear a mask, there's no definitive answer. Sounds like a pretty tough law, doesn't it? Anyone ready to go to jail yet? Ready for your $1,000 fines? Ain't happening, guys. Ain't happening. This is all self-regulated. Self-regulated. We put out a nasty gram and hope some people comply and don't really read it very carefully. There is no definitive answer. So your own HR department is your friend here. Your HR department's never your friend. That's useless waste of money there. There is no formal exemption to application. Of course not. Because there's no mandate, there's no law. Why would they require an exemption if there's no law? I want to get back to this part. HR department being your friend here. Now, I don't know how many of you probably maybe work in HR, and I know it's different for a lot of businesses, but the most powerful, bloated area of any company is going to be HR. Because sadly, men are not men anymore, and managers cannot manage their employees. They can't do anything, and they they like having HR, because then they don't actually have to deal with their employees. They don't actually have to discipline them. They don't have to do anything. They can take the responsibility and push it off to an HR person to be mommy and daddy for your employee. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that's the truth of what it is. Okay, they didn't used to have these big, huge HR departments, 30 years ago that are just there essentially just to do what a manager's job is. Now, I know they do payroll and other stuff like that, but in Physicians, where I worked 15 years ago now, one of the largest departments with like 25 people in it was human resources, and IT didn't have that many people in it. And that was employees like 20, it was like 3,000 employees in there, plus the university itself. But all of them are like directors and junior directors too. All of those people don't have jobs anymore, by the way, because if you're going to give off all of your responsibilities off to another department or give it off to contractors, don't be surprised when you're no longer an essential employee. And that's what happened. Physicians is no longer around because it was all directors and HR people. And they had one person who actually worked and did everything. And I'm sure he got a sexual harassment claim or something, or used some colorful language, and somebody got offended. So they had to fire that guy, and then they had to go under. It's terrible. Word of warning to businesses up and coming there. Handle your own problems. There's no formal exemption application. We're certainly not asking people to carry papers or wear signs. Oh, I'd love carrying papers, man. Another option that I might play around with is with the vaccine thing, like for entering into schools and things like that. If they don't have an exemption process, I say that I will take whatever you want to shoot me up with. You can administer it, but I need you to sign this release that says you are responsible for any damages that happen as a result, may or could happen as a result of your flu vaccine, for instance, or your MMR or whatever. And none of them will sign it. And it's like, well, then I'm obviously not taking it if you're not going to take responsibility. So you could do the same thing with the mask. It's like, oh, sure. I'll go back and I'll grab my mask here. I just need you to sign this contract that says you're responsible for anything that happens to me in your store, which they are already. Businesses don't realize this, but the second you're open for business to the public and somebody steps in there, you're responsible for what happens in there. Okay. But if you actually make them sign on the dotted line, nobody wants to take responsibility now. Remember this. Nobody wants to take responsibility for anything. That scares them then. No signing on the dotted line. No. Not going to do it. Even though they are responsible. If you pass out in there for lack of oxygen, fall off a ladder, they're responsible. They are the ones who put the mask on your face. They're the ones with the homoerotic fantasies about you. They're doing it. We're really relying on folks, customers, employees, everyone to use common sense, good judgment, and lots of compassion. I'm going to use good judgment and not wear the mask. How about that? I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to avoid it. And I know at some point, what's really going to kind of killing me inside is at some point, I'm just going to have to do it for whatever reason. And I'm going to be mad. But as long as you know the truth and you know it's nonsense and you got God, the mask can't hurt you. And you can be talking to people the entire time while you're wearing a mask. This is a sodomy slave gag enforced on by your government and blah, 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 and talk to people or whatever you got to do. I mean, there is going to be situations where you just can't avoid it. And rather than go through the hassle of dealing with managers and dealing with, 15-year-old Timmy, you're just going to wear the mask. What I'm talking about, though, is places that you regularly need to go, find, either test them so that when you go there without a mask, you're not always having problems, or find a way around it. Shop at a different store. Order from Jeff Bezos on Amazon, as much as I hate saying that. Wherever you can, don't comply with it. And if you have to, you have to. But what are they going to do? Ask you to leave? Oh, pretty stern stuff. This one talks about exemption cards. And yeah, there's no such thing as an exemption card. It doesn't say that they don't work. There's no such thing as an exemption card because there's nothing to be exempt from. There's no law. And this is the same thing where it says the ADA does not provide blanket exemption to people with disabilities from complying with legitimate safety requirements necessary for safe operations. It doesn't. But the ADA also doesn't say you need to wear a mask because there's no law. You don't need an exemption. There isn't anything in there about not complying with legitimate safety requirements for safe operations. I mean, this is all double speak. Yeah, anyone can go up to Americans for Disabilities Act and see for yourself. It's effectively the same thing as a store not having an access for people in a wheelchair and then saying, get lost. You got to have legs. You got to be able to walk to shop here. It's the same thing. What happens if customers don't comply? Customers should be asked to leave the business area. If they refuse or become aggressive, the business can talk and call the police, and it's a trespassing thing. What happens if employees don't comply? This is a conversation for you and your HR department to have. Different businesses will take different approaches depending on the circumstances. Here you go, guys. It says that if your employees refuse to wear the mask, you don't have to make them, you don't have to fire them, you don't have to do anything. Okay, you small business owners out there, or people who have friends that own small businesses out there. What happens if the business doesn't comply? Businesses that violate the order may face administrative action for any licenses they possess with the city. May face administrative action for any licenses. So they're threatening to take a business license over this thing. They're willing to die on the cross for the masks. Okay. They don't realize that people just aren't going to shop. Okay. And then their town goes bankrupt. And it's like, good thing you had that mask thing. But what I'm suggesting is being a good little entrepreneur and go after all those people that refuse to wear the mask. And you got a local hardware store and say, membership required, join today. Big signs on the doors. No mask required. And everybody who comes in and goes, and you say, sorry, I can't let you shop here until you become a member. Would you like to? And then they're like, what do I need to do there? Just sign your name here. Congratulations, you're a member. Enjoy your shopping trip. You are no longer a public business. You are a private club. Okay. Go out and go be fruitful and make money now. Okay. I wish I had a storefront so I could do some of this stuff. Be mad about it and all that. So that is the sort of thing that you're going to see if it's not already there. But they're ramping up. We're on the front end of all of this stuff because we're in Minnesota. We're kind of a bigger metropolitan area with a good mix of people. So depending on what happens here, they can kind of gauge how the rest of the country is going to kind of go. It's always up in the air in places like New York and California as to what's going to happen. I know what they didn't expect to happen in Minneapolis is them burning down the police station and deciding to throw out all of the police. And all of a sudden, all of the riots and all of that stuff, that pretty much stopped. All the funding went away and the buses came and picked up all the Antifa people and they all disappeared and they all scattered now. And there's no big outrage or outcry anywhere. Is because I'm pretty sure they don't want all their hard satanic work into the corrupt police system to be wrecked if more towns get this idea of we're just going to disband the police. And now the Minneapolis Police Department probably has, if you count officers and clerks and everyone that's involved with the police force, it's probably 20,000 people. And when they just decide arbitrarily, a bunch of weirdo lefties are like, well, we need to get rid of the police because we had one bad cop or something. It's so crazy. And they're like, yeah, it's going to be on the ballot in November to get rid of the police force. And you know what? Sure, let's get rid of them. Let's start fresh and see what happens. But if that works, you're going to have all of these cities all over the place voting out their police department. And like all that work down the tubes. So they don't want that to happen. So they loaded the buses up with the Antifa people and shipped them away for right now. They'll bring them back later. I promise. They'll bring them back later. But it's like exit stage right. And off they go. No more riots. Now we're back to masks again. So that is what's going on. And so I don't know. Anyone's got any comments, questions, anything? I know it's like late, not a huge stream, but it's something that I wanted to do. And I know of doing this in a video format, I'd be rambling on for hours and hours and hours. Things are just going to keep getting worse, Mike. Yeah, well, that's what the Bible says. And there'll be a point where I'm interested to see, like, when we get to this point of pushback, are we going to have masked people versus unmasked people in some kind of a showdown? Or we're protecting grandma, I'm protecting my sanity. I don't know.